Welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Glad to see you back here again with us in the Robert Mitchell Cowboy Mercantile Studio. Tucker Brown,
Right.
Willie Wardle, live behind the mics with you. And Willie, always a pleasure to have you back here again. Oh, what's that you're sipping over there?
That would be the Kiwi Watermelon Ranch Fuel.
Real Cowboy Energy? Mm-hmm. Zero sugar?
Brought to you by Tucker Brown. You gave this to me, and I didn't even have to do the discount code.
That's true. Oh, discount code. Speaking of that,
Yeah.
go to ranchfuel.com. Use discount code Tucker Brown. Get 15% off. Mm-hmm. Get the sampler. If you want to try them all, get the sampler.
Yep.
Get 15% off using code Tucker Brown at ranchfuel.com, and you'll see which ones you like. I like the blueberry pomegranate the best.
Yeah. Well, I like the, I don't even know what it's called. It's the purple one. The blackberry lemonade.
Strawberry.
No, it's blackberry or raspberry?
It's blackberry.
Blackberry.
Blackberry lemonade.
I get confused between blackberry and raspberry, but I'm pretty sure it's blackberry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast, folks. We came back from the Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers last week. Had a great podcast with Molly McAdams.
Very insightful.
Yeah, she's a stud.
Yeah.
And she called me out for using that word.
She did not like that.
But it's a term of endearment.
Yeah, it's not necessarily you were assuming her gender.
No.
You were assuming
less about
how
the gender,
great...
more about...
The accomplishments.
Yes. Yeah, more about her presence of just being the gal.
She's the gal. For real.
Wherever she goes. Yeah, anyway, great to... If you hadn't listened to it, really good one.
Check it out.
Really
you did some speaking.
Yeah, I got to speak.
Yeah, a couple times.
Twice.
Yeah.
I was on a panel about direct-to-consumer beef. If you need some beef, holla at your boy. And then, what else we talked... I got to do like a keynote, quote-unquote keynote speech for just talking about advocating for ag and using social media to build a business.
You really just wanted the opportunity to call your dad out.
I did get to call my dad out.
I love when that
and
part's
people
coming
loved
up.
it. You what?
I love when that's coming up. I think a really good quote you had was there was a little question deal at the end, and one guy said, well, how do I get started? I feel like I can't do all that. I only have 12 followers. He's like, well, the good thing is Jesus also had only 12 followers. I was like, that was pretty witty, pretty quick. I like that a lot.
That was my favorite thing. When he said he only had 12 followers, like immediately I already knew what I was going to say, and he kept talking, and I was like, please be quiet. Just let me say this.
That went right over my head. I would have not been able to think about that.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, and then got to talk to a lot of people afterwards, so really good time at TSCRA. And if you haven't been, you ought to go.
You should.
We'll be there next year.
We'll be there next year.
And I'll be in Fort Worth again next week speaking. Yeah. If you're looking for a keynote speaker, I really enjoy that. Talking to the Texas Feed and Grain or Grain and Seed. They're going to hate me for not knowing exactly the right words.
But you'll be there.
But I'll be there. Talking at the Tri-County Cattlemen's also next week in Oklahoma.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So, but that's just a drive up, drive back.
Yeah.
So it ought to be a good time.
You know what else is going to be a good time?
What?
This podcast right here.
It is, because we've got a guest that's a good one, and a guest that relies a lot on mindset and commitment, and talks about how that helped his success. He's a retired bull rider. He's started multiple businesses. He's been an agent and represented folks. He's talked to businesses outside of agriculture and brought them in, outside the rodeo and Western industry. And then, is a cattleman, owns cattle himself, and is a Texan.
Yeah.
So a perfect fit for the Registered Ranching Podcast.
And I think even more of a perfect fit is all of these people that he's brought into the rodeo industry is very similar to how you kind of bridge the gap, bringing people into the ranching industry. So I think it'll be interesting to see the differences in your mindsets, but also the similarities here. Because you guys are kind of accomplishing the same thing, bringing people that really have no idea about the Western industry whatsoever.
I think the first thing that separates us is that he is a lot stronger than I am.
Yeah, he's jacked. We better not piss this guy off.
Hey, welcome to the Registered Ranching. Join me in welcoming to the Registered Ranching Podcast, Shawn Wiese. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks for having me. I don't know about jacked. Yeah.
Hey, I'm hiding it under these long sleeve shirts, and you're just letting it bulge out there. You know.
If you look out of the corner of your eye, that little white building, that's our gym.
Oh yeah.
One room.
There you go. I don't know why you aren't jacked. Looks like a perfect place to get jacked.
It is the perfect place.
That gear needs to make some bigger shirts.
Well, like I tell my boys when I have them, move hay or feed, I'm like, come on, this is how you get country boy strong.
Country boy strong.
So I'm sure you are doing stuff on the ranch that you don't need to go to a gym.
Yeah, from time to time, we find ourselves doing some things like that.
Maybe I need to start working harder at the ranch, and then I don't need to go to the gym.
So, Sean, there was a video you do, a Motivational Monday. I don't know how long you've been doing that, but I saw on your social media profiles that you're doing a Motivational Monday, and there was a one that you did recently that I really liked, and you talked about how your feelings were kind of getting your way of motivation and not being motivated, but the consistency was more important than the way you felt. And I just thought that was, I went through back a couple of them, just trying to get to know you, and that one just kept staying with me. I really liked that.
Yeah. No, motivation is really a feeling, and consistency is an action. And feelings can only get you so far. They can't do the work for you. So, and nobody's ever, 100% motivated all the time. And that day when I did that, I was not. But I knew I had work to do, and I've learned over the years that if I consistently put in the work, results are going to show up.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but I know they're coming down the pipeline. So, and it's something I continually have to deal with, which I think we all do, is because we're imperfect humans, right? You wake up, you're not motivated.
Yeah.
You don't feel like doing certain things that day, but if you just put your head down and do it, and remember why you're doing it, you can get through it, and maybe tomorrow you'll be motivated.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Yeah, Willie and I call that the long game.
Yeah.
We're playing for the long game. We talk about that a lot. Is there something we can do whenever we make decisions? We're like, all right, is this short game or is this long game? And if any time we feel for certain that that's a short game win, we're kind of cautious of that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, we know in the long run that a lot of times a short game win isn't necessarily the best thing. But we really like that. No, Sean, can you kind of introduce yourself to the crowd? I gave him a little overview, but yeah, tell us more about Sean.
I've lived in the Western industry pretty much my whole life. Grew up in a farming family, and my dad rode bulls that I have vague memories of. I think he stopped when I was 5. So it was in my blood. And, I started that journey when I was 15, started riding bulls. And so I was a bull rider for 15 years.
Yeah.
The Cliff Notes version, basically I went from being a bull rider to a graphic designer, marketing. I finished school actually in San Francisco. Long story, but
interesting.
Went to a graphic design marketing school there, which came into play obviously later down the road with what I'm doing now. But started becoming an agent for bull riders after I retired from bull riding a couple years afterwards. Started representing PBR guys. I've done that for the last 24 years. And then the last 10 years, I started a Western lifestyle brand, Vexil Brand, mainly caps and shirts, and that's wrapped around the cowboy, rodeo, ranching, even farming and outdoor life. That whole brand is. But that's where obviously my graphic design came into play.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I do all the designs for the brand and the marketing. So that's me in a nutshell. But everything that I do basically has been wrapped around the Western industry because that's my passion. I tried to people say figure out your passions and try to make a living at it, and I've done it. I feel very blessed to have done it. But obviously you just got to take the plunge. You got to figure it out, and so it wasn't an overnight deal. It took some grind to try to figure out, okay, how am I going to make a living in the world I love? Mm-hmm. And people say that, the whole saying, find, a job that's wrapped around your passions, you'll never work another day in your life. Well, that's not true. I'll say that right now. It's not true.
Monday morning felt
we're
like
on the
work.
same wavelength here, Sean, because I don't like that saying.
Yeah.
No, because you still have to put in the work. It's more enjoyable to do the work because you're wrapped around an atmosphere or culture that you love, but nothing's for free in this world.
No.
You got to put in the work. whether you're going to a job that you hate or you're going to a job you love, there's still work involved.
Yeah, no doubt. I gotta work with Willie. Like,
Poor guy. I feel for him.
He's still learning what work is.
I feel for him. I feel for him.
no, that wow.
Oh, Throckmorton.
Our first traffic jam.
We got a traffic jam in Throckmorton. If you've ever come through Throckmorton, we are right at the square, and if you see Allsops, we're straight across the street. Mm-hmm. And so, just so
It's actually a great place to people watch.
It is a great place to people watch. Right across from Allsops. A great spot. So you rode bulls for 15 years. Was that in PRCA, PBR?
Yeah, I'm mainly pro rodeo.
Yeah.
Great life. I wouldn't have traded that. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Those 15 years of my life. There's no better job, really. You're young, no family, no kids. At least for me, that's how I did it. And you're traveling the world, places you've never been, and riding bulls obviously was fun for me back then. I think back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, and so glad I don't have to get on another one. But back in those days, in your 20s, it was the life, right? Great experience. It took me to, from Canada to Mexico to, and I got to see a lot of things at a young age, and fun life.
What was your favorite rodeo to go to? Or did you have a couple?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I always tend to love, obviously I grew up and started riding down here in the South, in Louisiana and Texas. So, probably, places like, St. Paul, Oregon, some of those 4th of July rodeos. But they were all cool. I never did really have, I'd say, a favorite. My favorite one was when I won money. That was my favorite one. So, but all those rodeos are I think you don't get to, that's one of the cool things about going and doing that life, is getting to experience the different rodeos and the different cultures, really, right? Because even though you're still at a rodeo, it's still different. If you grow up going to Texas rodeos, and it's just a different feel, right?
Oh, for sure.
And one thing I love from now I'm an agent for PBR riders, and those guys go to the same. They go to buildings, right, week in and week out, and it's like a traveling circus, and it's really mundane, because I got to go live that life too, going to all these buildings, and you show up at a building, you kind of forget where you're at. Like, where am I? This setup is the exact same as it was, last
Chicago,
week.
and now I'm in
And that's the cool thing about rodeo is all those arenas are different, right? And
they're all unique.
Yeah,
and St. Paul, Oregon's a lot different than Mineral Wells. There's a
100%.
huge difference.
100%. So that's the cool thing about rodeo, at least for me, versus what these PBR guys are having to do. But
I'm curious. Did you have an agent while you were riding?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
No, there was no agents back then.
And that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to.
Yeah. And there was no need, right? The corporate world, I mean, outside of, the sponsors you saw on the chutes and the fence at a rodeo that were involved with the local rodeo.
They weren't really sponsoring riders.
They weren't, it just wasn't that kind of world, which was kind of nice. I mean, looking back now, hindsight,
It's kind of another job, I feel like.
Oh yeah, these days. I mean, obviously, I've seen it from both sides of the fence, and these guys are the guys I represent are making great money outside of the arena. More money. I mean, a lot of my guys make more money outside of the arena than I would even come close to making inside the arena back when I rode. So, there's pros and cons to everything, but the agent stuff didn't really. I mean, sponsors started to show up towards the end of my career, and some of those top guys. You saw Ty Murray. He was sponsored by MGM. Obviously, Wrangler. Wrangler's been involved for a long time, but he started to see it when about the time I was got scared and quit riding. But now today, it's just, it's a part of the sport, right?
Yeah.
But it varies. Obviously, I've got an insider view on it. I see the rodeo guys and the logos that they're wearing, and then the logos that the PBR guys are wearing. I know the difference, right? Just because I have a hand in doing those deals, and I've played on both sides of the fence too, so I kind of know where the money is. But like I say, even the rodeo guys may make less in sponsors, but compared to when I rode, it's like
it's better.
They're making better. Yeah, we didn't have that, so which is a nice. It's a nice thing that if you got good partners or sponsors when you're rodeoing, it kind of it fills in the gaps is what I see. Is because me, if I went, if I got hurt, or I got in a slump, I may have to go find a job for a while to get my bank account back, to fund my play job or whatever, Well, that's where those sponsors come into play these days is, you get hurt or you have a string of bad luck and you're not winning anything. At least, if you've got some decent sponsors, it's filling that gap. So it doesn't hurt as bad.
Right.
Which sometimes I wish some of those guys had to go through that. It may probably make them ride better and rope better, if you didn't have that. But it is what it is.
So saying that, how important do you think sponsorship is now for these guys that are rodeoing?
Oh, it's way important. Like I said, just for that reason, it takes not all the stress off, but I feel like it probably takes a little bit of it off. Now, that's for guys that have decent sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys, like I said, I've got insider info. Yeah, they probably just need to take the patch off their shirt because they're not making enough. All they're doing is diluting the whole program because they're settling for so much less that it affects the whole spectrum of sponsorships.
Yes, sir.
Now, like I always tell my PBR riders, you have an agent for a reason. That's so you don't have to worry about this part of your business, and you can go focus on your skill set, riding bulls, because your focus should be winning. Because guess what? If you're not winning, I'm probably not going to be able to get you any sponsors.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. It can seem cruel at times because even in the rodeo world, when you really need sponsors is when you're not winning, right?
Yeah,
well, that's when
toughest time to get them.
Yeah, and that's when nobody wants to sponsor you.
Yeah.
So, but like I try to tell all my riders, it's look. You may not know this right now, but you're not going to be a bull rider forever. When you're in your 20s, you just don't think about ever quitting. So I try to, say, hey, this is only going to last a certain portion of your life. So go win as much as you can in that arena. And when you're doing that, I'm going to be able to help you outside of the arena. And we're going to try to get you as much money as we can before you hang it up. That's the goal.
Are there any bull riders that try to go without an agent?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, these days it's more common, especially in the PBR world, to have somebody representing you. But over the years, there's been guys who didn't do it. But like my whole selling point to that was, look, it's harder to sell yourself. Mm-hmm. You may not think so. You may think, well, I don't want to pay this percentage of my sponsorships to an agent. Well, that's fine, but I can probably go get you double.
Yeah.
Even with you paying me a percentage, you're still going to make more. And I had a few examples. There's one, I won't name names, but he had, and I was representing him, but we're dealing with bull riders, right? They think they can do anything. Yeah. And this particular bull rider had a conversation with a brand that had reached out to him directly, and he finally came to me with it. Hey, I'm working on this deal. I'm like, what are you working on? You're supposed to send me that stuff. And he told me the number, and I said, just let me take it. I said, I'll go blow that number out of the water. And yeah, I ended up getting 3 times that number for him.
Wow.
So, and he was quickly like, man, I was dumb. I about made a dumb decision. But so, it's,
But how good for you, like for him to feel that or like
Yeah.
see it literally in action.
yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Because as an agent, I don't have, I'm looking out for the rider's best interest.
Yeah.
So when I go into negotiating a deal, I don't care if they tell me it's too much, right? I don't have feelings into it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the price. Take it or leave it, Now, there's some nerve-wracking moments in negotiations. Sure. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to have to go to my rider and say, hey, they walked, right? But like I tried to, educate them and like, look, it's better to let them walk because you don't want to settle. Mm-hmm. I'll go find another one that'll pay the price we want. Mm-hmm. And, and I was blessed to be able to do that, time and time again. So, obviously once you show, the old saying from the Jerry Maguire movie, show me the money, once you show them the money, then they relax like, okay, yeah, I don't have to worry about that. You take care of it. So, and through that, my whole agent career, it's been, I'm not some suit walking into the locker room, I'm just one of the guys. And, a lot of them, I think there was a mutual respect there where they knew I ran my hand in the rope for a lot of years. So I was just one of the guys when I walked in the locker room. And over 24 years, I've never had a contract with a rider. It's a handshake deal. And a lot of them respect that too, right? Yeah. It's because at the end of the day, I always told them, if you don't want me to be your agent anymore, I don't want a piece of paper to define our relationship. Yeah. Right. Even if I had a contract with you, if you came to me like it's not working for me, I'd rip the contract up. Yeah. Because life's too short. And if my handshake's not good enough, then I'm not doing business right anyway. Sure. So, I always gave them the option, right? Like if you feel more comfortable having a contract, 100%, we'll do one. My business partner's an attorney, so I said we'll do one, but so I'd throw the ball in their court, but I think they respected it enough. This guy's willing just to shake my hand and do business. That's Cowboy right there. And even, my business partner, he's an attorney. You'd think an attorney would be like, no way, we're not doing this without a contract. Yeah. But you got to know my business partner. He's like, heck yeah, we ain't doing contracts. We're Cowboys. It's worked all these years,
I find it interesting a lot of times that to the Western world kind of encompasses rodeo, ranching, ranch rodeo, cowboying. But then I think it's like this way with a lot of things. But if you were to ask a rancher, is there a difference between a rodeo cowboy and a cowboy? They'd be like, oh, yeah. And then if you would ask a rodeo cowboy if there's a difference between, a rodeo athlete and a ranch rodeo athlete, I think there'd be a lot of differences. But we kind of get thrown into the same what's the right word, box, just because we are with livestock, because we are with, because it is our job with livestock. Mm-hmm. But the rodeo athletes, if you're not riding, you're not winning. Yeah. If you're not roping, you're not winning. You can't play for very long. Yeah. In the ranching world, you could say the same thing. If you're not treating it as a business, you won't be in very long. But was there a time, you kind of mentioned it before, was there a time when you rode that you're kind of an entrepreneur yourself, that you started a side business while you were riding, or was riding your thing?
No, in those days it was, I was hyper focused on being a bull rider. Now that being said, when I about a year out of high school, my dad was, like I said, he grew up. He was a farmer, right? But he also was a horseshoer. Uh-huh. So he convinced me. I think when I was 18, I graduated high school when I was 17. So it was about a year after I'd graduated. He goes, you probably need some sort of skill set. You're going to get out there on the road and not have any money. Why don't you go to horseshoeing school? I'm like, yeah, and so I did. So I got horseshoeing under my belt, and it came into play tons out on the rodeo trail, right? I learned that I could go walk over there to the trailers.
I'll be damned.
Who needs shoe tacked on? Who needs, and so it was a way for me to make some extra money, and then I ended up got a scholarship to go to school at Big Spring, Howard College, to rodeo for them. Rodeo coach had seen me somewhere.
Who was the coach then?
I'm not going to remember.
I'm trying to remember.
I should. He gave me a scholarship. But anyway, so I went, I called my dad, and what do you think? He goes, heck yeah, you go do that. That's it's a junior college. He goes, it's 2 free years of school. You never know.
Yeah.
And so I went and did that. Well, the horseshoeing came into play again at college for sure,
Good
right?
place for it.
So yeah, when I was riding it was like I said, back to your question, I was so hyper focused on being a bull rider that that was my business, right? That's what I wanted to do, and there was no other. Yeah, I didn't really have. I don't think I had an entrepreneurial mind back then. Maybe I did. It just hadn't revealed itself yet.
Yeah, sure.
So
When do you think that kind of hit you once you retired?
yeah, probably so. And I think I've always really been into, marketing, like just commercials, or print ads. I was always drawn to that kind of stuff. So I think, after I went and finished that, when I stopped riding and went and finished that school really, I think, jump-started my entrepreneurial brain. Just because you're taught, that, from designing stuff to the marketing behind products. I mean, that's kind of what that school was all about. So it really got me in that mindset. I've always kind of had a design mind, a creative side. I mean, I wrote rodeo poems when I was in high school. So there's always been a creative side to me. And I think, because after I got out of that school, when I quit riding bulls, this kind of goes with that story. I didn't go to a rodeo or any kind of Western event for 2 years because I didn't know who I was in that setting anymore. And I never did latch on to, being a team roper. So I was just like, I can't go to a rodeo because I don't know what I'm doing there, right? Because, for 15 years, anybody asked me what I did, well, I was a bull rider. That was my answer to all of a sudden, that's not my answer anymore, right? So what is my answer?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't find that at a rodeo or a bull riding. So I just it was kind of like a drug addict, right? I had to just get away from it and go focus on, okay, what's my next phase of life? And so that's what I did. Went and finished that school, started work. When I got out of that school, I started working for a label company, designing labels for food products. And then I ended up starting my own freelance, which here comes the entrepreneurial part.
Yeah.
I started my own freelance graphic design business where I was, doing package design for brands and, obviously the local stuff, logos and stuff like that. I think I quickly learned when I had to go work at that label company, that probably, like I said, I think the school kind of jump-started my entrepreneurial mind. But when I had to go show up at a place from 8 to 5 every day, the same place every day, I quickly learned I got to figure out a way out of this because this is not just, I went from being just a free guy, traveling the world to all of a sudden I got to go to the same building every day. I mean, I didn't mind the work. I enjoyed the design part of it, but it was just mundane. And so I started, my brain started working, okay, how can I figure out a way to not have to do this? Well, I built that freelance business big enough to where, I left that label company.
Yeah.
I figured out a way. So, and then that's when the agency stuff started. Cody Custer's a good friend of mine, and I think that year at the NFR, he's wearing a sticker on his top of his vest. And this is when there weren't that many sponsors, right? And it said autotrader.com. And so after the finals, I called him, and I was like, how much they pay you for that? because I was sitting there, and they're getting all kinds of exposure. Right? And he told me the number. I'm like, that's not enough,
Yeah,
like,
for what they were getting.
So, yeah, so I was just, he's my friend. I can tell him whatever I want. But he ended up calling me back, a few months later and said, man, I've been thinking you need to be an agent.
Huh.
And he goes, obviously you know the sport. Heck, most of the guys that are on tour, and you've got a marketing mind. I think you could do it. So, I thought on it for a little while and thought, why not? Let's go for it. And it was definitely not an overnight success.
Yeah.
It took some grind. Back in those days,
When was that?
that had to have been 2001, somewhere in there. I was trying to call whoever, right? And if I got somebody on the phone, I learned in a hurry not to use the acronym PBR because they thought I was talking about beer.
Oh,
And,
shoot.
they didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
PBR is only 5 years old at that point.
yeah, it
pretty
wasn't
much.
that old, and it's weird what 24 years will do, right?
Yeah.
I could call any company in this country, and they'd know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's a credit to the PBR and what they've done with the sport and grown their brand. But, man, back in those days, it was a rough go, for sure. So it took me a while to get my legs under me and get going and get a few wins here and there to just keep the ball rolling.
Did there wouldn't have been MySpace in 01.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know what
I don't
that
know
is.
social media history.
What the heck is a MySpace?
Although I do
Yourself
know
on MySpace.
I had a makeshift website, xdsports.com, that I just figured out. I'm a designer, so I can do, but it was still new, right? That whole digital stuff was, and I made it some makeshift website, and that's how I got involved with my business partner, Brad Benzinger from Michigan. He came across my website, and he was fresh out of law school, working for his dad's firm, and he sent me a letter. This is a long time ago, an actual letter, right?
Yeah.
I got a letter in the mail, and it said XD Sports on it, right? And I'm like, I'm just a year old. Who's sending me a letter from XD Sports? And it was a letter from him just inquiring about any open positions, which was high comedy for me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You hiring?
I said, I hadn't made a dime. What? Yeah, so anyway, so that him and I still joke about that to this day. We've been business partners for 22 years or whatever it is. And he ended up flying. I ended up calling him and say, yeah, I'd like to meet you. Fly out there. I was living in California at the time, and there's a PBR in Bakersfield, and I said, if you're interested, you can fly out to Bakersfield, and we'll go to the event, and we can sit and talk. And I thought, there's no way this guy's flying from Michigan to Bakersfield. Obviously, if he's never been to Bakersfield, if he's going, because Bakersfield is one of my least favorite places in this country. But no offense, Bakersfield, but yeah, he ended up saying, yeah, I'll be there. So, and then we ended up sitting down, and we had a lot in common. He's a big time hunter, and I love to hunt, and just about a year after that, I brought him on and said, well, if you can bring deals, I'll pay a percentage. And at that time, I started getting deals. Mm-hmm. And then I quickly realized, because I'd done my research on, I'm just a shooting from the hip agent, right? And I started doing research. Okay, what do other agents do for the NFL, for MLB, all these big time sports? And one thing that stuck out to me is to be an NFL agent, you have to be an attorney. So that's the rule, the NFL rule.
Dang.
So I quickly thought, man, if they change the rules on me, if I build this thing and 5 years down the road they change the rules on me, I'm out of business. Yeah. I'm not going to law school.
Yeah.
And so I talked to my partner about it. I said, how about we just be 50-50 partners? If they haven't, now they can throw that rule on us if they want. We got it
You're
covered.
in, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, but it was more than just that, right? That was kind of what got me thinking on it, but it's been a great partnership we're still, he's one of my best friends. We, go hunting together. And, so it's not, you always hear about business partnerships. I've heard horror stories, right? But I don't have that story. It's been a great partnership with him. But
Nice.
So,
Well, I wanna go into one of my favorite segments of the show. We're gonna clock you into the hot seat,
Okay.
and it may not be as hot because the Vexel shirts I hear are pretty good. But if you were wearing an Ag Gear shirt, it might be even cooler. I don't know. I don't know. I've never worn a Vexel shirt. So, welcome to the Ag Gear hot seat. Got a couple questions for you. Do you think you would have been able to represent yourself as an agent if you were your agent to yourself riding bulls as a 20-year-old? Do you think you could have been your agent?
back then, probably. Who I am now, probably not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm still laid back. I've got a laid back personality, but back then I was way laid back. I was just like a surfer. We're just riding bulls across the country, you know. So I probably could have, but with my mindset now, I probably would have been hard on myself from the rider. I would have like, where's my sponsors? You know, I probably would have been a butthole to myself. But back then, I could have represented. Because, I mean, over 24 years, I've seen myself in some of those guys, right? So I have almost represented myself, really, right?
Oh, that's funny. No, that's funny. Okay, do you have a different, we already kind of talked about your favorite rodeo, but do you have a different rodeo is there a difference between your favorite rodeo as a rider and as an agent?
Yeah, not necessarily. Like I said, I don't really, even as an agent, I don't necessarily have a favorite rodeo. I mean, all those rodeos are so cool. Something like Cheyenne, right? It's cool going from a different perspective. You know, when you're there as a rider, then going as, you know, not a rider. It really gives me great content to talk to my riders about. Hey, pay attention because this isn't going to last forever, and you don't want to have any regrets because you can't go back and do it again. So, no, I don't. I mean, it's just a different perspective, I think.
One piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Oh, man. There's so many. Just keep grinding. You know, I'd say keep grinding.
Play the long game.
Yeah.
Play the long game. Let's see.
Was there a favorite bull in particular
question.
or ride?
Back when I rode?
Maybe a favorite bull that you wanted to get and never got, or?
There's a lot of bulls that I didn't get that I'm glad I didn't get. But no, I didn't necessarily have I think the mindset back then is I tried not to go there because I didn't get to pick. So my favorite one when I was riding, my favorite
the one you made the most money on.
Was the next one, right? Because I had to have that mindset because, you know, you could easily get beat by your mind in that game.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's a 100% mind game. Once you learn the basic fundamentals of being a bull rider, then it becomes
90% mental and the rest is in your
I think
head.
that's what Don Gay always says. And he's right, because if you got in your head, and it happened from time to time, right? No different than it does with everybody from day to day. You can get in your head from one day to the next. And because I could easily, if I drew some bighorn brindle, get in my head, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is scary, But then the next rodeo, I might have some black muley that's
looks like a sweetheart
right in the gate, and I'm thrilled. So I tried to keep, just a level head, right, just through it all, because, you can't afford to get off the tracks too much, or you're not going to win. And it's just, I've taken that mentality into what I do today, right? I can't let the so-called losses in a day ruin my day. I got to stay steady because I don't need to get off the tracks either. It's the same application today as it was as a bull rider, right? Because you can go south in a hurry.
Yeah.
That's why I think I've talked before about, I try to wake up every day and focus on, a few things that I'm thankful for, which are, mainly for God, family, my health, my family's health, and the things that God's provided me in that moment, and focus on that, because everything after that, what's it matter, right? And I find when I don't do that, man, you can get off the tracks in a hurry.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I try to start with that mindset every day, and that would be my recommendation to anybody is
I like that.
you start with that thankful attitude. And I heard it I was watching the Masters golf tournament this weekend, and
Which was awesome.
oh yeah, it was great. And they were talking, I think, to one of the coaches who actually used to coach Tiger Woods, and they were asking him a bunch of questions. I can't remember the exact one, but he said, my main goal with the golfers that I work with was to get their mindset when they're on the course in a state of gratefulness. And I'm like, man, that's right on.
State of gratefulness.
And that's, if you take on life that way, I mean,
You can't lose.
yeah, you can't lose. I mean, yeah, you're going to have losses, but you still don't lose
Yeah.
in the losses because you've got your focus on bigger and better things.
So you had that mindset while you were rodeoing too. You were just grateful to say that you're a
Well,
rodeo
yeah,
cowboy and you
you
can
know.
get on bulls and
Yeah, I think so. I think that's been with me a long time. Now, I wish I would have won more, and I wish I could have done bigger things
Sure.
in that
Yeah.
sport. But I went to a 15-year school, basically, is what I did, and because I, even if I sit and think about it, where'd I get that mindset? I can take it back to bull riding all day long.
Yes, sir.
And so it was, even though I didn't accomplish all I wanted to accomplish in that sport, it gave me a lot moving forward. It gave me the tools I needed.
And that's what Justin McKee kind of mentioned, Willie, was that like his competitive mindset came from the bull riders that he hung around that allowed him to announce rodeos and compete in rodeos. And so like hearing that from this side, from the bull rider side,
Yeah.
is pretty neat to hear. How do you think, a kind of off-the-wall question here, how do you think Rory's mindset after 11 years, heartbreak of almost winning every major, and the Masters is the only thing left, and he missed that putt at the end to win it?
Yep.
I feel like the mental recovery from that to go back and win is miraculous.
Well, just to get, I'm a golf fan, and if you go back further to the U.S. Open, where a putt like that cost him winning that tournament, and then to have it happen again, man, yeah, and then for him to go turn it around in the playoff and have the mental capacity to stay in the zone and know I can still do it, just blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
It really encouraged me. It's like, because I can't even understand the amount of pressure that guy was feeling. I can't understand the amount of pressure just the basic golfer goes through teeing off in front of all those people and the
goodness.
TV cameras.
No doubt.
I would shank one so bad. It would be just
Hit somebody.
yeah. So all those guys, I'm really impressed with their mental toughness. You don't think as a golfer, that's not the first athlete you think of when you think tough. But mental
Mentally,
toughness,
yeah.
man,
There's gotta be
those
a lot of
guys have
pressure.
to be on point.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's something that I'm still trying to figure out is the head game with bull riding. Because like him and I, my buddy Blake and I talk about it all the time. Like, we've been doing this long enough that we know the fundamentals. We know what to do. It's when you start thinking instead of just reacting. You're not trusting your stuff. Or you, like you said, you psych yourself out. And it's like, man, I should ride this bull. This is an easy bull. And then you override the bull.
Yeah.
And that's still something that,
You ride?
yes, sir.
Yeah. You have to just get into at least for me, like I said, when you asked about you have a favorite bull, I never went there because I knew I had to get on the next one, and I may
That
not
one's
know
going to do
him,
the
I
same
may
thing as the
know
one
him.
before. He's going to try and
Yeah.
buck you off, and you got to
So
ride
if
him.
you want to be consistent in that sport, you can't be thinking, "Oh, I wish I drew this one," or "I wish I didn't draw this one." You drew what you drew. So you got it, and that's one of the lessons that bull riding's taught me in life. I don't know what's coming down the pipeline for me in life and work. I know there's trouble up ahead. That's all I know. So I just got to stay steady.
Yes, sir.
And that, you'll learn as you keep going, but I used to just go into a zone, right? Like you see, it's funny behind the chutes, you see all the different personalities and how they deal with that those butterflies really is what it is. You have some guy over here sitting down just freaking in his own world.
Yeah. Other guys cracking up and laughing the whole time.
and
till they're
so
about
I
to
was
stop.
more of I tried to stay loose and cool.
Same.
I was
Yes,
cracking
sir.
jokes or jacking with people. It's basically you're distracting your mind.
Yeah. 'Cause if I think about it the whole time and I'm just sitting there getting mad, like,
Yeah.
then
Oh,
that time
yeah.
I've gone overthinking, I've already bucked myself off. But if I'm just cutting up and react, that's when I ride the best.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to somebody the other day about this exact deal, and I didn't want to think about that. I tried to not think.
Yeah.
Because really, once you got in the chutes, because I think the person asked me, well, was when you crawled in the chute, is that when you really got? I'm like, no. I said I was relieved to get in that chute because it's the 30 minutes leading up to getting
Yes,
that
sir.
chute that's where the mental battle is. I mean, you're either in your head struggling or you're distracting yourself. And that was my game, is I distracted myself for those last 30 minutes, whatever. And once I got in the chute, it was just mechanics, and
Yep.
I'd done it
Muscle
time and time
memory.
again, and I was in the zone then. It's that leading up to it, man. I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore, but I can think
It's like
back
waiting
on
to tee off.
Yeah, oh, exactly.
Yep.
I can think back on it now, and I start getting butterflies right now. But it continues. I remember when I stopped riding bulls, that was one of the things I thought about. It's like, I don't have to deal with that anymore, at least, But little did I know, life's still going to throw you things that make you, turn your stomach and make you nervous. So once again, I'm like, okay, well, I know how to deal with that. So it's what bull riding taught me, School of Bull Riding.
School of Bull Riding, 15 years.
Yeah.
Did you graduate?
I'm not sure I did. Hey, I'm walking and breathing,
That's
so maybe I
right.
did.
Yep.
Maybe I did, yeah.
That I always like to think that, like I get butterflies before I speak to a big crowd, or right before our bull sales. There's a couple of days leading up to the bull sales, and or like before one of my children being born. I feel like anytime I get butterflies, I'm doing something I like.
Yeah. It's a good sign.
I think so. Like I think once I get them, I'm like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. The thing that gives me that little nervous.
Yeah. Because if you didn't care, there wouldn't be no butterflies. What
Exactly. And that's why, like, the person that asked me that, I was talking to, they're like, well, that feeding 30 minutes before you're going to ride, was it fear? Was it, once you get to a certain point where you're bull riding, no, it wasn't fear. I mean, I knew the risk I was taking, right, being a bull rider. All that, when you're a bull rider and you have some success at it, you're not thinking anything about that, right? That'll take you off the tracks in a hurry. It was the competition nerves, right? I want to win. I want to ride this bull, right?
You want to show up and show out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the I could die thought never was a thought.
No.
And it can't be when you're trying to make a living at that. You just have to. Yeah, it goes in. I don't know where it goes.
It goes in it's the same place it goes whenever I get in the car. I mean, you die just as quick driving a car down the road to
you
work.
Don't think about that.
Yeah.
True.
You just put it in the same place. I almost got interrupted by one of your endorsees, your bullfighter, Tyler Menzel.
Oh, yeah.
He was sitting over here calling. I was like, I'm actually talking to one of your buddies right now. I'll call you
Tyler.
later. He said, what's up?
That's funny. Well, welcome out of the hot seat. You're out of the hot seat. That was
You
a long
survived.
hot seat.
That was a good hot seat.
I like the hot seat.
That was a good
Just go into bull rider mode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go.
And you started getting the nerves.
Oh, no, you waited. You waited to tell him to, like, all right, he was about to get down on his bull and start to his rope up. He didn't have time to think
That's what I
about
need to
it.
do. I'm like, hey, here in 15
Yeah, if
minutes.
you would've told
me to do a hot seat.
Yeah. Tough questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I love Ag Gear. Wearing the shirt right now. If you haven't tried Ag Gear yet, go to Ag Gear. Google Ag Gear. Use code Tucker Brown. You get a 15% discount. I like those 15%.
You got a lot of discounts.
Yeah, use them. Well, yeah, you're out of that. I wonder how different your mindset was. You mentioned you went to that school in San Francisco. I feel like there weren't very many people that had the same mindset you had at that school in San Fran than what you had.
Oh, no. It was it was almost an out of body experience.
Yeah, I bet.
Once again, I'm thankful for. I mean, it was when I made the decision. I was living in Central Valley, California then, but I didn't live in San Francisco, thank goodness. But I went over there. I'd go over there on Tuesday morning early, and I'd come back Thursday night late. So I was there for 3 days, and I saw stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And when that, like on the news, I hadn't been to San Francisco in a long time, and I heard on the news, a while back that, it's really gone downhill. I'm like, it's gone downhill from
Even more?
When you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like whenever 20 years ago or 25 years ago it was downhill. I can't imagine what it's like now. 'Cause, I mean, just no different than going to New York City. I've been there quite a few times, and it's just outside of our world, right? And I kind of enjoyed doing it because it for one, that makes me thankful the way I grew up and how I live my life. But two, it's new, right? It's cool for me to, like, every time I go to New York City, I mean, I'm just like, where are all these people coming from? They're just all on the streets. They're everywhere. Where they live, right?
Yeah.
They live in all those buildings, right? Which blows my mind. I can't wrap my head around it. But I mean,
I went for the first time this year, and I was the same way. I was like, this is the first time I've ever felt like I'm in a simulation, because what are all of you doing
yeah,
here?
it's weird.
You're telling me you live your whole life here?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially from Throckmorton.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like that had to help you as an agent, like going there and being around a different crowd, because you talk to quite a few sponsors or businesses that are outside the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that did, those couple years I went to that school did put me out of my comfort zone, which anytime you're out of your comfort zone, you're growing. So, 100%. I'm sure I took some things from that experience that helped me down the road. Because, I mean, being an agent, I'm talking to people, multi-billion-dollar brands that they have no clue about the Western culture or lifestyle, or
Trying to get them to give money to a 18-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So I've had tons of those conversations over the last 24 years. And sometimes they're nerve-wracking. I did a stint where I was Tough Cooper's agent for about 5 years, and Fallon Taylor's agent, and I did a Team Chevy rodeo deal. And so I worked with General Motors. Well, any of those big brands like that, they have a lot of agencies. They you have to deal with so many different people. And I remember I'd done the deal. There's Tough Cooper, Fallon Taylor, Luke Branquino, Richie Champion, and Travis Graves were on the Team Chevy Rodeo. And we had a big photo shoot out in Cody, Wyoming, wrapped around that rodeo. And not at the rodeo, they had an off-site where we did the photo shoot, but they brought in one person from General Motors, and the other three were from agencies. And there was none of them had been to a rodeo. And I'm just like, they were like Chicago and New York, or Detroit and Chicago is where they were all based out of. And I had to go in the bull rider mode there because I was nervous.
Yeah.
You've never been to a rodeo. You already signed the contract, so I'm not worried about that. But I don't need I don't need negative feedback to some high up, Right. And so I've got all these things going through my head when I'm at this rodeo. And not only that, I've got Tough Cooper, who's in the tie-down roping, which if you've never been to a rodeo, never been around it, the first time you see tie-down roping can be a little bit of a shocker, right? So I was like just nervous, and sure enough, I mean, and I tried to, drop some hints, just some, give them some background, like, it's stuff you see here, it's the way we, you eat a steak, you eat hamburger, some of these things they do, that's what happens on the ranch. It's just part of, what you got to do to, to get that steak on your plate. So I started trying to drop hints, kind of get them in the right mindset. And thank goodness Tough came out and turned his calf good. It was great. But there was a couple that didn't, right, and knocked the calves down. And they're sitting behind me, and I hear gasp. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh. But, it all worked out. They didn't. But it's stuff like that, and no different than, stuff happens in life in general, but, the PBR is not immune to that stuff too. I've seen some stuff happen there that, not good. And, sometimes you have to work around those stuff, people that don't understand the lifestyle. But, I think there's more pros than cons in doing that. You know, obviously you have these little things that you don't want them to see because they're not really going to fully grasp everything. But back to your question, yeah, I've had tons of conversation with people that know nothing about our lifestyle, and it's fun. You know, it's fun to introduce them to that because they're always. It's no different why Yellowstone was so popular, right? It's because people. It's like you and I going to New York City, right? It's like we don't see this stuff, right? I mean, obviously Yellowstone's a drama, but
It's real to quite a few of those watchers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that's why I love the thing you did when you went to New York.
Yeah.
Because I think they need a translator on that comes on before every Western, and translates.
That's funny.
The reality of what they're watching, right?
Pretty good.
Because the whole cowboy culture, you think about it, yeah, there's this big cowboy boom, right, with Yellowstone. There's, and all that, Taylor Sheridan has done with that. And so, and I hate hearing the term, oh, yeah, Cowboys making a comeback. Guess what? They never went anywhere.
Yeah.
We're still out here living it day in and day out. Whether Hollywood's on board or not, stuff has to get done in this world. And it's no different than, you see it, right, in waves. I feel like, I'm old enough now to where I can see it. No different than back, when Urban Cowboy came out, right? The whole, honky-tonk scene, that put the, cowboy world in kind of a limelight for a while. So I think back then there was this big, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a cowboy, and then it'll die off, and
yes, sir.
Everybody thinks the cowboy died, but we're still out here living, right? And then Hollywood will latch on again, and here it comes again.
Yeah, just off the interstate a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we are. Okay, we're going to move into one of my favorite segments of the show, brought to you by Bedrock Truck Beds. They're the toughest truck beds you can get. I wish I had a discount code, but I don't. But one thing is that the new spike bed is out.
It's out.
New spike bed came out April 15th, and what is today is the 17th. So just a few days ago, it came out. New spike bed. We love it. Go check it out. They're the toughest truck beds you can get, and that is why we're going to ask you, what is the toughest thing about being an agent?
Well, it's getting sponsors, right? You're basically at least for the type of agent I am, right? For bull riders and rodeo athletes, it's, I think people see for the PBR existence, they see Monster Energy, they see Levi's, they see Yeti. Just all of a sudden, these guys are wearing it, right? And if they knew what the work was behind getting those brands to sign on, then they'd understand. If somebody could come sit with me, when I'm really grinding on trying to find sponsors, they would quickly learn that they probably don't want to be an agent. Because when people ask me, what do you do? I'm an agent for professional bull riders. Oh man, that's cool. That's a cool gig. I'm like, yeah, it's a great title.
Sure,
but it's so the hardest thing is just the behind the scenes work, right? It's I'm pretty callous to rejection anymore at my age because I've heard so many no's over 24 years trying to get sponsors that if you're going to tell me no, tell me today. Don't that way. No hard feelings.
Yeah,
but I'm going to move on. I got a sponsor to find.
Sure.
So it becomes a numbers game, right? I got to just keep grinding. So that's probably for people who don't understand it, that's the hard part about it is the day in and day out work that you have to put in to get the success, right? You got to go through a lot of no's to get a yes.
I think that stops a lot of people. The first no, the second no.
Exactly.
I think that stops a lot of people from doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's really helped me, like the bull riding school I went to for 15 years helped me mentally, but, being an agent for 24 years and having to hear all those no's and learning, kind of how the corporate world works, it's really helped me, be successful even more because there's not much that scares me. I'll jump off a cliff. We can try that. Let's try it.
Yeah.
What's the worst? we fail,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I do that every day.
Yeah.
You know, or they say no. You know, that's ask them a question. Well, they might say no. They probably are going to say no, but
They sure
you're
won't
not-
say yes if you don't ask.
You're not going to die, right? So it's helped me with that mindset of, oh yeah, that I'm not saying it wasn't tough in the beginning. It was like, gee whiz, how many times I got to hear no to finally get a yes. Yeah.
What I find it interesting. I've heard people have different numbers of like, I have to hear 5 no's before I get a yes. And so once I get a couple no's, like I know I'm close to my next one. Do you have like any number in your head or anything?
No, there's no.
I think at that point it's kind of like you not having a favorite bull, or you not like
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
sense
Looking for
it's
the
the
next
same
deal.
thing.
Yeah, I can't
like,
think of that because I would if I tried to go back, if I thought I had a number and I hit the 10th one, well, that's a 10th no. The next one's a yes. Well,
Yeah.
that one's going to probably be a no.
Yeah.
The next 20 are probably going to be a no. Then I'm going to be like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on here?
working.
Yeah. So no, I never went into that. You always go into it. The next one might be a yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So you try to think on the positive side.
I like that.
Um,
And in a sense, really, you kind of take it with your bull riding as well as, all right, they say no, like whatever, I bucked off, like whatever, I'm going to ride the next one, I'm going to get the next one.
Yeah,
Like,
you got to
have
leave the
that
past
mindset.
past in the past. And once again, it's probably, the bull riding school comes into play again.
That's
It
helped
helped
you.
me with that. You can't focus on what happened yesterday.
Yep.
You got to live it, and you can't focus on what might happen tomorrow either. You got to focus on what's in front of you right now, because if you don't, you're gonna. There's a good chance you're going to miss an opportunity or miss something special that could be a lifelong memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's neat. Because I feel like that holds a lot of people back from either starting their business or continuing their business, would be being able to get that thick skin
Yeah,
to be able to do that.
yeah.
And you've started more businesses than just being an agent. What would some of those be? You talked a little bit about them, but
Well, yeah, like my first one was, really you could say horseshoeing, or you could say bull riding for one, but
Yeah.
you could say horseshoeing because I was, I'd have to go walk through trailers or like anybody, I was trying to sell then, right? Anybody need a shoe tacked on or horse trimmed, right? So it started at a young age, I guess. Back to your original question, when the entrepreneurial started, I guess it did probably start back then. I just didn't realize it, but so then I started my own freelance graphic design business. So I think the majority of my life I've been, I've just learned a lot through the processes, right, of what needs to be done, and not being, one of the most valuable things I have in my toolkit is failure. It doesn't faze me,
Yeah.
right, because it's just a part of life. I really, failure is really an opportunity to learn, to better yourself. So that's the way I look at it these days, is when I fail. In the past, maybe not. I learned that in the past I may have failed and just been pissed off about it, and keep going. Well, I've learned these days, whoa, wait a second. There's some valuable stuff in this failure, and I need to milk it for all it's got. That way I don't make the same mistake again, for one, but two, it's probably going to give me some tools to actually go have success. So, I think that's one of the things. People are scared of failure, and I think there's a number of different reasons, but I think a lot of it wraps around what other people think of them. All these people are going to see me fail, and now you're worried about all these other people, right? Which, for the most part, those people really probably don't care.
right. Yeah.
You're making this story up in your head that
yeah.
all these people are going to point and laugh at you when you fail, which they got their own problems. They don't have time to do that for the most part. Yeah, there may be that one person that does it, but he's already a loser for doing that, right? So you shouldn't value that person's opinion anyway if they're acting that way. So I think that's the hurdle people need to get over is, look, you're not on a stage with a spotlight. It might feel like you are, but really you're not. So just learn to focus on you and who you're meant to be, and the skills God gave you, and focus on that, and don't worry about everybody else, because if you do that, they're going to be looking at you for your success because you put in the work, put your head down.
And you may have just answered it, but there's a lot of folks in ranching in the Western world that are trying to start some kind of side business, whether, some day working cowboys. We talked about Casey doing leather, making belts and saddles. We talked about, Max Krupp. He sells beef on the side while he ranches. And I feel like there's a lot of them trying to do some entrepreneurial stuff to be able to keep that business going. What advice do you have for someone trying to start their own business?
Consistency. That's the main thing because, if you consistently, whittle a stick, it's eventually going to get whittled down, right? Mm-hmm. So just consistently doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, if you just did one strike with your knife on that stick and are pissed off because it's not sharp, well, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's no different than starting a business. It's not going to be overnight success. You have to, and there's going to be times when you want to quit. Well, that's when you just need to put your head down and do the work one more time. And the next day may feel the same way. Do the work one more time. Next thing you know, you're a year and a half in and things are happening, right? But if you quit then, that's what happens to people, right? They're not seeing the results and they give up. I'd say consistency is key no matter what.
Oh, that's good. Willie, what you got?
Oh, I got a couple, I guess. At what point do you think like a guy should start looking to have an agent or have sponsors? Like, say, do you wait till they're in the PBR, they're pro rodeoing and they're winning a lot, or do you think they need to start looking into that before they get their permit, or they already have their permit, or what advice would you give to those young bull riders or young rodeo cowboys and cowgirls?
Yeah, I'd say obviously today's times are different than they were 10 years ago, but
yes, sir.
Today there's agents out there. I'd say maybe have a conversation with a few of them. And kind of just learn what an agent's role is.
Yes, sir.
But don't sign on the dotted line. Don't do anything. But learn and educate yourself on what are the benefits of an agent. And like I say, you're basically interview a few. And there's like I say, there's a number of, not a ton of them, but there's enough to where you could talk to 2 or 3 or 5 somewhere in there. And that's what I would do is I'd talk to all of them and have them tell you what it's all about, and then from there, you just go focus on winning.
Yeah.
And I really, if you're doing the rodeo career, I wouldn't talk to an agent until after your first NFR, because
now you have the resume to back yourself up.
Exactly. Now you've got some credentials. And any kind of sponsor that wanted to sponsor you before that anyway, it's not going to be that much money. It's not going to be.
But now,
it's just going to be a distraction.
Yes, sir.
And in the PBR, I would treat it the same way because, like I said earlier, if you're not winning,
ain't no one going to want to sponsor you.
Agent's not going to be able to do anything for you anyway.
Yeah.
So that's got to be your focus is winning.
I like that. I guess another one too is, as far as the agents come, how many guys have rodeo backgrounds, or are you kind of few and far between? Because I feel like that gives you a huge advantage.
Yeah.
As far as helping guys, that you know both sides. Like you said multiple times, you're on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
So how many guys are coming in there with suits and they don't really know a lot about the rodeo world, but they're representing.
Yeah, there's not many, and there's on either side. Like I said, there's not, and I don't know all who's doing it out there anymore. I don't really, like I said, I just have always focused on me and what I've got going on. In the PBR world, I know that there's one in particular there's a couple. It's a team of guys, and one is a past bull rider. And actually, one of my guys that Chase Outlaw that I represented for years.
Oh, heck yeah!
He started his own agency, and I helped him.
Yes, sir.
I told him, like, look, you've had the firsthand look at what I do, what I've done for you, so you know how to do it. It's not there's a few now. Now, back when I started, there was only there's one of the main reasons, back to when I said Cody Custer had called me. there was an agent doing stuff for PBR guys and no rodeo background, and
Yeah.
he was already getting a bad name, and guys were not liking him, and he'd done some shady deals, and that's one of the other reasons Cody thought of me. He knew who I was, right? And when I started, there wasn't. It was kind of a new thing. I remember telling a guy, an older guy, he's probably old enough to be my dad, when I first started the agency. I was at some barbecue or something, and it came up, and he'd asked me what I was doing, and so yeah, I just started an agency. I'm representing professional bull riders, and I still remember to this day. He goes, "What?" He goes, "Bull riders don't need agents." I mean, he was pretty just spit on my dreams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, he was a Tommy. He was a roper, so he didn't like bull riders anyway. But that stuck with me, though. I like a little fuel for my fire. And 24 years later, I still remember that conversation like it was yesterday. So, but yeah, so there weren't many people doing it. There's more options now, which is good. I like to see it, right? Especially in that rodeo world. Somebody needs to come in there, and I'm representing one rodeo guy, Wiese Shala, and he's making good money. He's probably making a lot, yeah. Because I just told him, like, look, we're going for quality, not quantity. Because a lot of those rodeo guys you see, they'll have 20 patches.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't fault the guy for it, right? They're just trying to fill in those gaps, right?
Yes, sir.
But I would like to see it more, hey, let's raise this money. Let's pay these guys what they're worth. So, I mean, I know Wiese. I did the deal, right? I know he's got some deals that are more than the guys that made the NFR.
Yes, sir.
Multiple times, and he's making more than them. Of course, he's got a bright future too. But
That's a pretty good pitch for yourself.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, I wish there was more. I think, like I said, I'm slowing down on the agency. I wish somebody would come in and do that, because my whole goal with the agency has always been, it's never changed. My goal was, I mean, obviously I started with bull riders, but is to make bull riders more money outside of the arena, to better their life. Because I know it's coming to an end, right? And that's been, my focus has always been the rider. And because I knew if I did my job, it would fulfill that goal, right? And yeah, I've had riders that have retired. There's one guy that he owns like 600 acres, and he bought it all with sponsor money.
Yeah.
And that's satisfying for me, right? Because that fulfilled my goal. I wanted to make bull riders more money outside the arena, so when they did move to the next phase of life, they had a head start, right? And I wish there's 20 guys, agents that would come into rodeo and PBR with that mindset to do it. I'm fine. I'm not. I don't need to be the only one. That there needs to be more, because, like I said, that's was my focus. I want the bull riders to benefit from it, right?
Well, tell us about Vexel.
Yeah, that's 10 years old now. Man, time flies.
10 years.
Yeah, that's that goes back to my graphic design. I created the logo, this right here, and I can't even remember the backstory on where I came up
It's
with
Roman, ain't it?
Huh?
I thought I heard it was Roman.
Roman? The term
V.
Vexel is, yeah.
Oh.
But the icon, I designed that first, and I think something's sparked my creative side, and I designed it, and I put it on the shelf for a little bit, because I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I just kept thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I need to create a brand around that. And I started researching V words, right, and came up with Vexel, which derives from the word vexillum, which is a banner a Roman soldier carries into battle. So I thought, well, that's cool. This could be the brand of Cowboy carries into battle. And, I mean, like I said, I'm not afraid to jump off a cliff. Next thing you know, I had caps made and some T-shirts made and had a website, and I was rocking and rolling. My wife thinks I'm crazy, right? This was in 2014, and I was right in the middle of, I was representing 15 bull riders. I had the rodeo. That's when I had Team Chevy Rodeo going. I mean, my plate was like overflowing, and now I decided I want to get in.
Yeah.
And my wife said, what are you doing? You want just chaos in your life? I'm like, no, I don't know. And but I was at a lot of people who start brands. You'll see brands come and go.
Yes, sir.
Especially in this Western world. You'll see it. Oh, there's a new brand, and 2 years later
they're done.
They're gone. Well, I was very blessed that I already had another business, right? I was making a living another way, so I didn't need to create this brand to make a living. So I was able to just slow play it, right, for the long, like I said, long game, and just slow play it, and any money that came in from it just went back into it, right?
Yeah.
And not everybody's able to do that. So I understand when I see a brand and it's around for a couple years and then it dies, because I'm like, yeah,
It's tough.
yeah, it's a hard game to play. But yeah, it's just naturally grown, and it's been a learning experience for me, because I don't know what I'm doing half the time, to be honest with you. I'm just shooting from the hip and let's go. Let's make some shirts, it's whatever. And
They made sunglasses.
yeah, we did sunglasses for a while.
I had me some Vexil sunglasses when I was chicken farming.
You did?
I didn't know anything about rodeo or PBR when I was growing up, and I was at a chicken farm, and I was like, I don't even know how I found out about the Vexil brand.
But you got them shades.
But I got them shades, and I rocked them for a while. I think my dad took them whenever I finally moved down to Texas and got amongst it. But there were the turtle shell ones. I thought I was so classy.
Yeah, I might bring them back. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know what I'm doing. So I mean, just try all kinds of stuff.
Neither do we. We didn't even know we were.
There you go. That's how you do it. You just
We went how long before? Like, I mean, we were 5 minutes in before.
Because I was getting worried, because I couldn't. We're using a new camera for the people that are watching, so I was like really worried. Like, is this thing recording or not? And then like I started checking that, and I looked at the soundboard, and I was like,
no red.
Tucker, there ain't no red. There ain't no red.
It's not all.
Yeah, you just got to jump in and do it. I'm notorious for that, right? I jump off a cliff and try to build a parachute on the way down.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't work all the time, I'll be honest with you. But
but
once again, I'm okay with failure.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna. That's not a good example, because if you did that, you'd die. But in business,
a small hill.
yeah, small.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, we always like to end it with a favorite verse or something you've been studying, or favorite passage or chapter. Is there what comes to mind whenever I say that?
that's an easy one, because it's what Vexil Brand's based on. We've got in all of our products, whether it's a shirt or a cap, a jacket, on the label has Joshua 1:9. So that's what the brand's built around. And
I was going to say that one. Actually, that was the one I was going to say.
Did you know that was?
Huh?
Did you know?
I didn't know.
I just saw your face.
I didn't know.
So yeah, this is my command: be strong and courageous.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. See, it was meant to be. God knew what He was doing.
That's weird, man.
That's pretty cool.
That's one of the I just got chills. What?
But yeah, that verse means a lot to me, because it's whether it's my Monday motivational. You know, we want to be an encouraging brand, and that's kind of my mindset anyway. And no different than when you're talking about the agents, or you're like, it's a good ad for me. I don't care if there's 20 agents. It's all about the end goal for me. You know, what are we doing? What kind of impact are we making? And it's the same with Vexil Brand, right? My goal with Vexil Brand is to get that verse out to as many people as I can. Once again, if I do that, I'm selling product. I'm making a living.
Yeah.
But that's not my goal. My goal is not to make tons of money or sell tons of cats. My goal is to get that verse in as many people's hands as I can. And it's cool to get the feedback. People will buy our brand, and then just randomly I'll get a message or an email with a picture of our label. It says, I didn't even know this was in here, man. This is cool.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, that's why we're doing it right there.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that's neat.
That's cool.
Well, I don't have anything to say now.
I don't have a Bible verse, but it has led me into this next question. The final question.
Okay.
Willie Wardle's final question. That's my new segment.
there we
need
go.
some music.
That's a new
Like,
segment.
doom, doom, doom.
Willie's final
Well,
question.
I just thought about it, just like how you talked about, like your goal is to share that verse to as many people as possible while you're making the caps. How do you think a guy's rodeoing, particularly for my case, like riding bulls, how can I make that about God?
Go win. I mean, because
The more that you win and you dedicate
focus
that
on your
to God.
craft, right? That's I think that's what God would want you to do. Okay, I've given you this talent. I've given you this passion. Go do it to the best of your ability. And that's all you need to focus on. You don't need to make it complicated.
I like doing that.
Yeah.
Complicating stuff.
No, yeah, just go do that, and you're doing your role, you know.
Yes, sir.
And I shouldn't say it's all about winning, because you could get bucked off in the way you carry yourself.
Yes, sir.
And deal with that. Somebody might be watching, and you may make an impact on their life on how you handled adversity, right?
Yes, sir.
So, just go follow whatever God put
Whatever
on
it
your
is.
heart.
Doesn't have to be bull riding or.
But do it at the
anything.
best of your ability,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Don't weak heart. Don't look off.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't look off. Don't look off. That's great. Hey, what a pleasure it's been to have you here.
Yeah, this
Where
is
can
cool.
they look up the Vexel stuff?
VexilBrand.com.
VexilBrand.com.
You guys got Instagram too?
Yeah, it's at Vexil Brand on all of our social media. So
And then if they want to see that Motivational Monday,
it's at Shawn Wiese.
at Shawn Wiese. How do you spell your last
Good
name?
name. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's Wiese is the last name.
W-I.
SHAWN. I should say that too. It's
SHAWN.
not SEA.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to spell that.
Yeah.
So how would you spell it out again? The whole thing.
SHAWNWIESE.
There it is.
And I repost some of my motivational stuff on the Vexil site
Okay.
as well, so you could probably find me that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Man, what a pleasure to have you here.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate
I
you.
guess I
having me.
have to go with I have a verse for the year. At the beginning, I kind of made a verse for the year. I think it was Proverbs 21:31. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory comes from the Lord.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I heard Jameis Winston say it on TV, but I loved it because it's like, man, you're working, you're grinding, and your horse is ready for when that, or your business is ready, your horse is ready, and you're working on that, and then the winning comes from you've done all you can do.
That verse goes into a lot of the
Victory
things
comes
we
from the
just
Lord.
talked about.
Yeah, it does. Oh, that's great. Any last words? Sign off. Hi, Mom.
I think we said it all.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate it, man.
Hey,
thanks for
thanks
being
for
here.
having me.
Thanks for being here, Willie. Gosh, what now? Keep grinding. I'm about to have a baby.
Yeah, you got a baby on the way. We're going to have to get some podcasts lined up so we can schedule them in advance.
Yeah. You think my dad will give me a day off? I got one day off.
I don't
last
even know
time.
your dad, but I guess the answer is no.
Yeah. I think he's getting a little more lenient as this is baby girl number 3. So good girl, Dad. Good girl, Dad. But hey, if you are listening and have not reviewed the podcast, make sure and give us a 5-star review. It really helps out. I'm talking to you too. You can go to if you're watching, you can go give it a 5-star review. Help us out a lot.
5 stars.
Or Willie will come after you.
I'll come after you.
Yeah, check us out, registeredranching.com. Watch YouTube. We got it everywhere. But gosh, thanks for hanging with us. A couple things not to forget. First of all, don't forget the alamo. But gosh, y'all stay classy
And ranch on them.
and ranch on them. We love you. God bless, folks.